Hi everyone, welcome to Yoga LJ. My name is LJ. I'm a yoga teacher and a registered nurse, and today I'll be talking to you about Virabhadrasana A. In Sanskrit, Vira means hero, Bhadra means bright or fortune, so it'd be like a bright hero, although we refer to this as Warrior One pose. And the experience of Warrior One is of a warrior. As Ray Long says, he's an author of several anatomy books, it's energy waiting to be unleashed. And that is my experience with Virabhadrasana A, is that over time with practice, the pose transforms as you yourself transform. There's a lot of depth in this pose. And in addition to that, anatomically, there's a lot of oppositional alignments. So you're working with a lot of oppositional forces, and it involves the whole body. So it is a warlike experience. And in the Bhagavad Gita, it's a dialogue about war between Krishna, Lord of Love, Compassion, and Protection, and Prince Arjuna, who is one of the great warriors in Hindu literature. And the story is that Prince Arjuna had to go to battle. He was going to an epic war. Not any war. It's a war that included members of his family, branches of his family. And so he was conflicted about having to go kill so many people, including family members. And so Krishna was driving the chariot for Prince Arjuna going to the war. And so Prince Arjuna asked advice from Krishna and says, "What should I do?" And Krishna's response was, "Yes, you must battle, because it's a performance of your dharma and your karma." So performance of duty and right action. And you wouldn't think that a Lord of Love and Compassion would say, yes, you go to war, but the reality is that we do experience warlike events in our life. And it's not because you want to have a peaceful life means you're going to get one. We probably all have had our challenges. And what's important when you're going through these challenges is that you want to be clear about what is the right action and what is my duty in the situation. And that is what helps you overcome. So there's a dualism between your soul and matter. Another way that teachers refer to this Warrior One pose is being a spiritual warrior. And when it's referred to as spiritual warrior, that's about battling your greatest enemy. And the greatest enemy we have is avidya. Avidya is self-ignorance. Self-ignorance is the root of all suffering. And so in a spiritual sense, we're trying to gain our self-awareness so we can stop suffering so much all the time. And so that's another way. And it still has this dualism of soul and matter. So it's a very important pose, and it's one that has depth, and you want to be patient and practice for over time. I will start off by demonstrating what it looks like, and then I'll get into the anatomical cues and alignment, and then I will talk about modifications. If you have a low back injury or a right hip injury or even a hip replacement, you want to be very cautious in this pose. So we'd be starting in downward dog, and after the 5 breaths, we'd finish the exhalation following the Ashtanga primary series. When you finish the exhale, you would turn your left heel in and step the right foot forward near the right thumb. And your back heel turns into the center line of the mat, and it's at a 45-degree angle. And your right toes are facing straight ahead. So you would come up and you would straighten your back leg. Ideally, you would bend your right knee over the ankle and have your right thigh parallel to the floor. And then you would wrap your arms forward, press into your hands, and lift the gaze either to the fingertips or lift the gaze past the fingertips to the sky. And so that's what it looks like. You really want to find the straight leg, but also a spinning in the back leg. And when you find that spinning of the inner thigh pushing back, that helps to support your pelvis. When your pelvis is supported in the pose, your low back can lengthen, and when your low back can lengthen, you can reach your torso up and find length out of the pelvis and the pose as you're reaching the hands up and you're grounding the feet down, and your sitting bones are dropping down. So half of your body is dropping towards the earth, as the other half of your body is reaching for the sky. And so that's why it's important to find that back straight leg, which can take some time, especially to find the spinning action. So once we have the back leg, you also want to tilt your pelvis posteriorly. You want to lift your hip bones. This helps to strengthen your low back muscles, engage the core. And when you lift the arms up, I like to wrap my arms forward at an angle like so, over the heart center. And I engage the latissimus dorsi muscles on the low back, the sides of the low back. These muscles are attached to the humerus bone. So when you wrap your arms forward and up, you're lengthening your low back. In addition to the quadratus lumboris muscle, which is a deep core muscle close to the back on either side as well. And I'm pulling the triceps back to find straight arms, like so. And another way for the arms is to bring them straight up, which is not wrong either, is to bring your arms like so. And that's okay too. It's whatever is personal preference. As long as you maintain your core and lengthen your low back, that's the important part in the pose for the upper body. And in terms of the hips being square, you're wrapping the left hip forward, although it may not be square. There's some teachers that say your hips have to be square. I think we're working towards square, and I use that as a cue when I'm teaching so people know to square hips and shoulders to the front. But the left hip, I don't think will actually square. It does turn out a little bit backwards as you straighten and engage your back thigh, and that's okay. As long as your foot position is right, the hip will be fine. And so for beginners, the tendency in this pose is to lift the back heel, and it's hard to lengthen the low back for beginners. So what you could do is shorten the stance, is not go so long in the stance. You can bring it shorter. That way you can ground your back heel and get more length in the torso. Another option for beginners, for stability, if you have problems with balance, is to widen your feet a bit wider so it's not heel to heel alignment, it's a little wider, and that's fine too. That will give you more stability, and there's no harm in doing that. You just won't get as much extension out of the pose, but you'll still get a lot of benefit anyways. It's still a great modification. And another modification when you're starting off is just to bring your arms shoulder width. You don't have to bring your palms together. It's quite challenging to bring your palms together and find straight arms. So it's something you can work towards, or keep your arms straight up, palms facing each other. With regards to injuries, if you have a hamstring injury, a hip injury or hip replacement, or low back injury, you want to start doing with lunges in this pose. So you lift your back heel and start with lunges. Once you're comfortable with lunges, then you would do a beginner version of Warrior One by having a wider stance and a shorter stance with your feet, and see how it feels. But you shouldn't feel anything in your low back, hip, or hamstring. So that is Virabhadrasana A. I hope that you discover your inner warrior and allow it to radiate within your practice. Thank you, everyone. Please give the video a thumbs up if you like it. Any comments or questions, you can drop them below. Bye.